Part 38. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 372. Where there are people, there are rivers and lakes, and where there are interests, there are struggles. Cosmetic City is not only a place for people, but also a place for money. Naturally, there is no shortage of rivers and lakes. Floor management alone, and those few security guards, can't solve many things. This place is full of dragons and tigers, the water is not shallow, there are many elder brothers and bastards. Zhao Yanran has her own way, and she has no intention of going to the counter to check the post, so she went directly to a small facade across the road. On the front of the door is written, Brother Hao's office, and the following line of small print reads, negotiated to solve problems, and single-handedly handle thorny problems. The plaque is weathered, and the pagers and landlines behind are invisible. Entering the door is a staircase. Zhao Yanran went upstairs. There was a small counter in the small space. There was a little girl in her 20s sitting, holding a cigarette and burning her head. From the state of her expression, she knew that it was not like that. A decent girl. On the left is a door with a plastic curtain, which has turned yellow, and there is a smell of smoke and foot odor mixed with the sound of mahjong. Occasionally, a few women's laughter can be heard. What are you doing? Playing mahjong, the girl asked casually without raising her eyelids. Find brother how to solve something, okay. Where is it? The girl asked, looking up at her. The Cosmetic City. The girl stood up and took a cigarette, pinched the cigarette butt in the ashtray, stepped in a pair of high-heeled sandals, and said, come with me. The environment inside is noisy, the house is a little messy, the ground is full of melon seed skins, mahjong tables and coin machines are scattered everywhere, and a few people are shirtless drinking wine, bragging about who they have fought with, pointing to the scars on their bodies. How? In the innermost position, the environment is not bad. There is a small table next to it, ashtrays and tea are placed on the table, a man in his 30s with a national character is smoking a cigarette, and a girl in a rather cool dress is halfway there. Leaning on him to watch the cards play. Brother Hao, someone is looking for something for you. The girl stepped forward, reached out and took half of the cigarette from Brother Hao's mouth, and took 2 puffs in her own mouth. Brother Hao raised his head and glanced at Zhao Yanran, found that he didn't know him, and said, you can solve it by relying on the rules and regulations in the Cosmetic City. I'm almost washing my hands. I can't find you until I can't solve it. Why? How much? My 500,000. He made a total of 3 million. 3 million. As soon as this number came out, everyone present was shocked. They all handled 350,000, and Ding Tian was 108,000. Good guy, 3 million. Who? So cruel. Is it that Huasha Cosmetics? It was a lively day, I went to see it. It should be him. You don't know, they were about to knock out their brains just now. Brother Hao has been in this area for many years, and he is not a local. 7 or 8 years ago, he took a sum of money to do business in the sea, but a fellow villager lost even his pants. Later, he was cruel and continued to do the work of pitting fellow villagers. Instead, he made a lot of money. If he offended people, he would naturally fight, but he did not expect to become famous. After the establishment of Cosmetic City, he competed at counters, attacked opponents, grabbed orders, and took over all kinds of jobs, and he became the #1 ruthless person in Cosmetic City for a while. In the past 2 years, Young have risen, and the various rules and regulations in the Cosmetic City have also been improved. He has also made money. Recently, his daughter-in-law was pregnant, so he wanted to play mahjong. I didn't expect such a big list to come. Brother Hao didn't want to play mahjong anymore, he pushed the cards in front of him and asked, how much can you give? 10%, I'll give you 50,000. Zhao Yanran gritted her teeth and said, as long as you can get the money back, 50,000 is really not much. Brother Hao was moved. With these 50,000 yuan, the wife has enough money for confinement, and even the baby's milk powder. Anyway, it was easy. The fact that Huasha Cosmetics sold 3 million that day shocked the entire cosmetics city. He also inquired. No background, all foreigners. Okay, when? You call him out and let's talk, Brother Hao said. Then tomorrow night. Contact. At that time Brother Hao waved his hand to indicate that Zhao Yanran could leave. Zhang Xiaoyan will be back tomorrow, and Lu Feng is also preparing to return to the company. He will call Zhang Fengxia in the afternoon to inquire about the latest business situation. In addition, there were more than 60 million left before, and now the 80 million has been collected, and the money can be returned intact in the past 2 days. The current debt situation is relatively urgent, and the 9 borrowed from the mortgage assembly line needs to be repaid next month. Million. What Zhang Fengxia means is that to give the company a little more chance to breathe, it is not necessary to have too much capital action before the end of the year. After repaying part of the debt, you can walk across the bridge and extend the time limit of the debt, so that the pressure will be less. Lu Feng thinks it can be done, as long as there is not too much external pressure. He is also willing to give the company a little more chance to breathe. After all, the next few years will be the real battle. Zhang Fengxia also talked about the valuation of financial institutions at home and abroad. Lu Feng didn't understand what was going on for a while, but just said that he would go back and look at it later. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng sat there and thought for a while. It is normal for the company to grow and become a unicorn in the industry to receive attention from some financial institutions. But why does it feel a little out of place when so many financial institutions give valuations at the same time? Finance is something that is played in an era. Lu Feng has never seen such a method before, so he doesn't know what it means. He didn't want to think too much. Now the most important thing in front of him was Zhao Yanran. From the ruthless words she put out, you can think of it with your toes. There is absolutely no end to this matter, and she will even use some special methods, common methods of the bottom business community, to fight and kill. This matter must be resolved before he leaves, otherwise when Zhang Xiaoyan faces it, she will not be able to solve it at all. In the evening, I made a phone call with Zhang Xiaoyan and Duo, and just after hanging up, Zhao Yanran called. Hello, Mr. Lu. I am. What's the matter? Lu Feng had already heard that it was Zhao Yanran. Things have to be resolved. Let's talk about it tomorrow night. Let me tell you, Zhao Yanran, are not easy to mess with. I haven't suffered such a loss in the cosmetics city in the past few years. Mr. Zhao, you can't take advantage of it without taking a loss. If you say that, I haven't found you yet about the 2 tons of wax oil, Lu Feng said solemnly. Stop talking nonsense. Tomorrow night, the brothers in the back alley will have a barbecue. Let's make this matter clear. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that something will happen. You threaten me, Lu Feng frowned. Threatening you as a foreigner, what's wrong? What can you do with me? If you eat it in your stomach, it's yours, Zhao Yanran scolded. Is it digested? Do you have that stomach? Okay, did you find Big Brother? Did you pick something up? Lu Feng asked. Yes, that's right, you can't handle it. Pretty, I'm looking for someone too. You have a way to find it, let's make a gesture, Zhao Yanran scolded and hung up the phone. Lu Feng sat on the sofa with a gloomy expression. He felt that he had to directly crush Zhao Yanran to death, otherwise Zhang Xiaoyan would cause all the trouble later. It is to destroy her directly with the kind of situation where Taishan is pressing the top. I originally wanted to communicate with you as a small trader, but look at you, you have to force me to take action, Lu Feng muttered. It would be impossible if he didn't take action. he couldn't run back and forth every now and then. The king of hell is so good at seeing little devils, this sentence is the truth. The next day, Lu Feng first called Lu Cheng and asked if he had anyone under his command. "Mr. Lu, what type of talents do you want? We still discovered and trained many new talents this year. It's the kind of outstanding talent with a simple mind, well-developed limbs, daring to fight, and a strong body." Lu Feng organized the language and said. This. Lu Cheng felt that the kind of talent that Lu Feng mentioned was a second bastard. "Mr. Lu, are you recruiting people from the cosmetics factory?" "No, it's just an incident that requires some special talents to support the scene. Do you have any?" Lu Cheng didn't expect that Lu Feng had reached this level, and he would still encounter such a thing. He really didn't know it. He was all engineers. It really doesn't. "Well, you bring 5 or 6 people here at night, and I'll call the others to ask." Lu Feng hung up the phone without waiting for him to say anything more. Then I called Mr. Hong again. Although the two had been fighting for a while, Lu Feng was willing to speak up as long as it was needed. Mr. Hong heard that it was such a trivial matter, so he agreed and wanted to see Lu Feng again. Maybe there is a chance to cooperate. Then there are Mr. Su, Mr. Hao, Mr. Lu, Mr. Zhao, and Mr. Yang. Anyway, I basically typed the business card in my hand once, and finally found out that I had hit Lu Quan. "You said you need me to help you go to the station." Lu Quan on the other end of the phone was also taken aback for a moment, because he was a vice mayor. "I'm sorry, I made the wrong call." Lu Feng hurriedly hung up the phone with a few polite words. Zhao Yanran never dreamed that Lu Feng called so many people. If Brother Hao knew about this situation, he would not even be able to play mahjong. Lu Feng was mainly afraid that this kind of thing would fall on Zhang Xiaoyan's head. She had never experienced it before, so she could definitely break her courage. That is, she wanted to directly press Mount Tai to the top and crush all possibilities in the future. "Is it a little too hard?" Lu Feng muttered, and without thinking about it, he picked up the car keys and went to pick up Zhang Xiaoyan. "This is more than excessive force, this is simply anti-aircraft guns hitting mosquitoes." At 11 o'clock in the morning, the family of 3 returned home. They tanned a lot and looked healthier. They lay in Lu Feng's arms and kept talking about what they had done in the village. "Is it better in the village or here?" Lu Feng asked. "The village is good," Duo Duo said excitedly. "The village can use firecrackers to fry cow dung." High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 373. Duo Duo talked about the aristocratic etiquette learned in kindergarten, the spoken English, and the mess of performances, vocal music, and swimming. Went to wear a small dress. However, after going back for more than 2 months, firecrackers were used to fry cow dung. It is like a fish that slips through the net of quality education. Zhang Xiaoyan glanced at the kitchen, took out the dishes from the refrigerator and started cooking. While busy, she asked what happened in the factory recently. Lu Feng didn't tell her that the counter was smashed, but just said that he felt that the existence of the counter was of little significance, and fired several girls who were selling goods. "I said at the time, let them work for a month. Those little girls are new here, it's not easy," Zhang Xiaoyan muttered while holding the dish. "Don't worry, I am paid according to the full month salary." Zhang Xiaoyan smiled and said, "How's the sales in the past 2 days? I'll go down and have a look. If it can be sold, I'll produce some more." "I've withdrawn the counter," Lu Feng hurriedly said. "You should be steady, make some piecemeal orders, and follow the method I gave you before." Although Zhang Xiaoyan felt pity, she still nodded. Her biggest advantage is contentment. Tomorrow is the day when Duo Duo starts school. Lu Feng has also booked a flight ticket for tomorrow afternoon. In the afternoon, the family of 3 basks in the sun outside their house. Zhang Xiaoyan keeps teaching Duo Duo. After going to kindergarten, he is a big class child, but he must not teach children to use firecrackers. Fried cow dung. Lu Feng sat there watching her preach and just wanted to laugh. He spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on high-end education, and he forgot all about it after returning to the village for 2 months. Let's go out for dinner as a family of 3 at night, Zhang Xiaoyan said casually, just go to the Cantonese restaurant last time, I think it's pretty good. In the evening, I have a game, so I can't go, Lu Feng said apologetically, the work has already started these days. Then you are busy with you. Zhang Xiaoyan was a little disappointed, but he was prepared. When he was busy, no one could find him, and muttered, I have something to do this time. At 7 o'clock in the evening, the night market has just opened its stall, and it has entered September. The sky is coming earlier than before. Brother Barbecue is definitely the largest barbecue stall in the back alley. Every night, heroes from all walks of life gather here. He talked about all kinds of tens of millions of big deals, and if he drank a lot, it could be hundreds of millions. All kinds of benches have been placed. Zhao Yanran has set a position here in advance. Brother Hao is still playing the last mahjong game. Today's mahjong hall gathers 20 or 30 people, all old brothers who have gone through the storm with him. A 26-7-year-old woman came in, her stomach slightly arched, and she supported her with her hands. The people around her saw the woman calling her sister-in-law hello. Brother Hao was stunned when he saw the woman, and then his face showed joy, and he said, what are you doing here? It's smoky, go home to raise a baby. The woman who was snuggling next to Brother Hao also stood up. Are you going to make peace tonight? Let's quit, okay. The last hand, 30,000 yuan, I touched it. Brother Hao took a puff of cigarette and said, 50,000 yuan, I have never accepted this kind of big order, just a foreigner, I will pay immediately after finishing this order. Wash your hands. Sitting next to him was a thin man with a pointed mouth and monkey cheeks. He looked at his sister-in-law, and then at Brother Hao, and suddenly said, Brother Hao, you are very familiar with this scene. I've seen it in the movie. Oh? Thin Pimp, what movie? It's the kind of big brother in society, the wife is pregnant, and then makes an oath, and the last vote is a golden pot to wash hands. In the movie, the old man died miserably. Go to Nima. Brother Hao pushed the thin pimp to the ground and scolded, can't you just say something auspicious? Brother Hao, believe me, I just watch this kind of movie in the video room when I have nothing to do. It's all this kind of routine. It's 100% effective. Brother Hao got angry, stood up and kicked with his foot. A few people ran up and hurriedly pulled Brother Hao. Brother Hao, the thin pimp is this kind of person. It's not a day or two. Yeah, it's useless to hit him, it's even more troublesome if your brain is broken. That's right, besides, I won't mess with you if you have a good mind. Brother Hao kicked a few times, suppressed the anger in his heart, and immediately quit without causing so many troubles. Looking at the thin pimp, he reprimanded, in the past few years, you have been the biggest stain in my life. The thin pimp didn't move after being beaten, he slumped on the ground and muttered, but you are my son. You are a hammer, the son? Wenqing is sick, do you know it? I have endured you for a long time, you came out to hang out, what are the tattoos? Hao Ji pulled his arm and said, they are the passers-by of your life, I am the only one who will always be quietly guarding you, you can be so literary and artistic with a humming pimp, I am convinced. There was a burst of laughter. Stop laughing, let's go, it's almost time. Brother Hao settled his wife and walked towards the door, followed by others. The thin pimp got up and patted the dirt on his body, and said to himself, I am happier than you only love one woman, and I have a group of women. Talking and following up. The night is hazy, and the barbecue stalls are smoky, adding a bit of a market atmosphere. Zhao Yanran sat at a table full of beer. At the same time, She set all 3 tables next to her to feed Brother Hao's brothers. After a while, Brother Hao came. Everyone took a seat and called the boss over to order various barbecues. "Where are the people?" Brother Hao looked around. "Still not here. You won't come, will you?" "Don't worry, if this matter is not resolved, he can't hang around in this area. If he can run away, the monk can't run away from the temple." Many people around have recognized Brother Hao, and they are all whispering about what happened. How did Brother Hao reappear? It seems that it is not peaceful tonight. Some people have come to toast with wine glasses, and there is an endless stream of people saying hello. Although he was not in the arena for a while, the legends on the rivers and lakes are all about him. Some people noticed that the people at the tables were all from Brother Hao, and they all held it in their hands when eating the skewers to prevent the table from being overturned. 10 minutes later, Lu Feng parked the car and walked over here, looking for both sides along the way, and strode over when he saw Zhao Yan Ran. "He's alone," Brother Hao wondered. Lu Feng walked over and sat across from him. He looked at Brother Hao across from him, and then glanced at the people at the tables next to him. "Aren't you called someone?" Zhao Yan Ran asked Lu Feng. "Where's your person? Where's the money?" "My people are busy, and they'll be there in a while." "Still that sentence, you have to take care of your own profits and losses when you do business. The market has risks, so you can't pass the risks to me, right?" Lu Feng looked at Brother Hao and asked, "You to stand up for her?" "Yes, you honestly gave the money, and I guarantee you will walk out of the street safely," Brother Hao said with a sullen face. The people eating around were still in the mood to eat, and they all perked up their ears to listen. Even the restaurant owner leaned against the door, holding the menu in his arms and watching. "This kid is going to be finished. Who is that person? I seem to know that, the husband of the woman who sold it for 3 million. How can it be so easy to earn money? After earning so much, you still don't leave. Isn't this looking for a cut?" Lu Feng picked up a bottle of beer from the table, and all 3 people at the table suddenly clapped and all stood up, with stools, beer bottles, sticks and the like in their hands. Lu Feng glanced at them, picked up the beer starter again, and slammed the lid open. Brother Hao frowned slightly when he saw that he didn't change his face, and said, "Brother, you have a lot of goods in your guts. I have to be courageous. I don't dare to come out and do business without 2 brushes. If I meet a person like Mr. Zhao, I have to pay to die. Since I want to make a comparison, I will eat some food first. It's not bad for a while. Okay, wait for your people to come, so as not to say that I bullied you." Brother Hao waved to the boss and said, "Give him the menu." Lu Feng ordered a lot of kebabs, ordered 2 cold dishes, and sat there eating and drinking. There are still some famous brothers on this street, and most of them are merchants or sellers in the cosmetics city. At the time of a meal, there were already quite a few people around, full of food and drink. Zhao Yan Ran said coldly, "Pay the money, or choose another way." Brother Hao's brothers were also full of food and drink. More than 30 people surrounded Lu Feng, and behind him were 3 floors inside and 3 floors outside. Greetings from the head. Ordinary people would have been horrified when they saw this. Lu Feng glanced at the time. "Mr. Hong and those people let him go, so why didn't Lu Cheng come? I'll give you the last 5 seconds, or don't blame me for being rude." The onlookers seemed to have foreseen Lu Feng's fate, and they all ducked back. Some girls even covered their eyes with their hands. This part of Cosmetics City is considered a business district. Now it is time to get off work, and there is a traffic jam. Not only is Liukan blocked on the road, but Mr. Hong, Mr. Lu, Mr. Su, and Mr. Hao are all stuck together, and they just came over together. Lu Cheng was afraid that something would happen to Lu Feng, so he trotted over with 7 or 8 people, seeing that the water was blocked, and even heard a girl screaming, as if a fight had already started. 5. 4. The thin pimp got out of his head and glanced around, and reminded in a low voice, "Brother How, according to the routine in the movie, there will be someone who will call the sword to keep someone at this time. Go away from me." 3. Let's go, let's go." Lu Cheng grabbed the person and wanted to go inside. "It's all to watch the fun, why should I give you a place?" "Didn't you do it?" Lu Cheng pushed and shoved a few people, and saw that there was already tension inside. 2. "Stop," Lu Cheng shouted, "I'm the president of GFN Electronics R/U0026D company, stop me." High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 374. As soon as these words were shouted, Lu Cheng became the focus of the audience in an instant. Zhao Yanran and Brother Hao were also taken aback for a while, and raised their heads to look at Lu Cheng. They didn't expect Lu Feng to have such a relationship. The crowd made way, and Lu Cheng walked in with the people. "This is your person?" "Just brought so many." Brother Hao lit a cigarette and shouted, "What kind of president are you?" "Head of GFN Electronics R/U0026D company, Lu Cheng." This is the first time Lu Cheng has participated in this kind of thing, and his words are very embarrassing. He has been a good student from childhood to adulthood. He was admitted to the university smoothly all the way, and then went abroad for further studies. It can be said that he is a serious person, and he has never seen such a low-level bastard as Hao. "Brother, don't be a coward when you stand up for others, and don't tremble in your calf," Brother Hao teased, already seeing how strong he is from the outside. The people around burst into laughter. Seeing Lu Cheng wearing glasses and looking so polite, he didn't seem like a problem solver. Just bring so few people, really fight, not opponents. The crowd gathered more and more, and some people were even holding skewers in one hand and beer in the other to watch the fun. A woman in her 30s got in, followed by two pretty girls. "What's the matter?" the woman asked to the side. "It seems to be a fight, Sister Wu, let's not join in the fun." "Haven't you heard of a boss?" Sister Wu looked at Lu Cheng, but she didn't have any impression in her mind, but when she looked at Lu Feng, she recognized it at a glance. "This is not the one who ate with Su and Hao that day." "Little boss. Did he get into trouble?" Sister Wu pointed at Lu Feng. The person next to her nodded and said the matter again. The little girl behind her hurriedly asked, "Sister Wu, do you know me? I had dinner with a few big bosses, and he accompanied him. I thought he was not a big boss at the time. I didn't expect him to open a small factory with a small asset of several million," Sister Wu said with disdain. In her eyes, those with assets of less than tens of millions are small bosses. She has been wandering around the cosmetics city these 2 days, and she has also heard some things about Lu Feng. "Don't be fooled by him, he's just a small boss. He hangs out at some wine tables all the year round and knows a few bosses," Sister Wu said. Lu Feng heard this. Looking at Sister Wu, after thinking about it for a while, I remembered that the other side had set up a dinner with Mr. Su and Mr. Hao, who acted as an accompanying guest and was eloquent. I didn't expect to meet him here. Seeing him looking at her, Sister Wu said to the two little girls beside her, "This person was at the general manager's bureau at the time. There are so many things going on in these days, so you have to learn how to look at people." The two little girls nodded again and again, "This is all knowledge." There was a burst of boos from everyone, thinking it was a big boss, but he didn't expect to be with the big boss, which scared everyone enough. Brother Hao sneered when he heard this, threw the cigarette butt on the ground, picked up an unopened bottle of beer, stood up and walked in front of Lu Feng, smashing the beer bottle at the corner of the table. Boom! The beer shattered all over the floor along with the glass slag. He held the beer bottle and pointed at Lu Feng. I've given you enough time and opportunity, you're useless, what are you pretending to be with me? Tell me. You don't look enough, you know. What about adding me? Is it enough? An emboldened shout came from outside the crowd. Everyone looked at the outside. What kind of character is this? A man in his 40s and 50s, with a fat body and a beer belly, walked over with 8 or 9 people behind him and said solemnly, Chairman of Wankan Real Estate, Hong Wankan. Wow! Everyone was amazed, and he was a boss again, and it seemed that he was not ordinary rich. Brother Hao panicked for a moment, looked at Zhao Yanran. Didn't he say that he was a foreigner? Why did he have so many connections locally, and he was also a rich boss? Zhao Yanran was also a little dumbfounded, not knowing how to get out of the two bosses. Before the two could react, another voice sounded from outside the crowd. Plus me, Chairman of Fengjun Company, Tianjun. Chairman of Fortune Group, Hao Junren. Chairman of Tianyi Company, Lu Jianjiao. Chairman of Wanhe Industry, Li Wanhe. Names sounded one after another, and each name was like a heavy hammer hitting the hearts of everyone present. The feeling of being struck by lightning made everyone's mind go blank. Zhao Yanran was already stupid on the spot. What is this for? This shabby barbecue street resembles a corporate gathering. Brother Hao's hand was shaking while holding the wine bottle, and he kept saying something in his heart, I'm just a second bastard, what are you doing? This is too bullying. These days, entrepreneurs form groups to fight. Sister Wu's face turned pale, and she slapped herself fiercely at the moment she said to the two little girls behind her. Sister Wu, didn't you say he's the little boss? How do you feel that this boss, apart from being young, doesn't look like a small boss? Sister Wu frantically recalled what happened that night. Mr. Hao and Mr. Su mainly revolved around Lu Quan. Lu Feng was sitting there, and he really didn't have much sense of existence except to eat with his head down. Gone. She has definitely gone wrong. She has been in the dinner party for several years. She has seen all kinds of big bosses. She couldn't believe what kind of character this was. There are only 2 words left in my mind at the moment, thigh, absolute thigh. There are already 20 or so people standing behind Lu Feng. If you pick them out, they are all worth tens of millions, and they all have neat suits. Some people just came over after the meeting. If they can go to this stop, let GFN Electronics the boss takes personal favor. Anyone can do this. Lu Feng turned his head to look at everyone, and cupped his hands, thank you for your support. Mr. Lu is very polite. That's right, let's have dinner together when you have time. It's all right, just a little bastard like this, you give me a sigh, and I'll give you a call. Everyone became polite one after another. The words they said were light and fluttering, but when they fell into the ears of the people around them, it was horrifying. Just make a phone call? This level of bosses say that they have done it, but I am afraid that they have really done it. Brother Hao's hand trembled while holding the handle of the beer bottle. He couldn't afford to offend any of these bosses, let alone so many people. Who is Lu Feng? This is not what he can imagine. He turned his head to look at Zhao Yanran. This job took over and ruined his job. The thin pimp stood aside with excitement on his face. I'm right, the people who said they washed their hands in the golden basin are all. Shut up, you unlucky star. Brother Hao already understood in his heart that he was kicked into an iron plate today. He looked at Zhao Yanran and whispered, didn't you mean out-of-towners, didn't you mean that you don't have any strength? Zhao Yanran's mind was in a mess at the moment. She only knew one thing, she really couldn't get her $500,000 back. Of course, Brother Hao wanted to turn around and leave, but the problem was that he was afraid that Lu Feng would find the blame. Besides, if he turned his head and left, his reputation in this area would be completely over. Later, he also wanted to do business in the cosmetics city. After thinking about it for a while, Brother Hao immediately understood that he doesn't need to win today. As long as he doesn't lose, he can say in the future that he is not afraid of facing so many great people. Lu Feng looked at Zhao Yanran and said, "Didn't you say gestures? Speak." Zhao Yanran stood there and said nothing. "I tell you, you have to take risks in doing business. No matter what happens today, after tonight, this matter will be over. If you dare to find another account, don't blame my subordinates for being ruthless." Lu Feng looked at Zhao Yanran said, "Are you satisfied with the outcome of this matter?" Zhao Yanran took a deep breath and nodded. She had already started to cry. She didn't even know whether she was crying because she was scared, or was crying because she lost so much money. Lu Feng looked at Brother Hao and asked, "I smashed my counter that day, is there anyone with you?" This kind of questioning tone has always been Brother Hao asking others. I must have felt a little uncomfortable when I was asked this way today. Anyway, I have reached this point. I smashed the person who didn't have him at the counter that day, but I can say that I smashed it myself. Yes, what did my people do? I don't want you to do anything to Huasha Cosmetics in the future, otherwise don't blame me for being rude," Lu Feng warned. Brother Hao was ready to be beaten, but Lu Feng just said such a light-hearted sentence, which made him think that the other party was nothing more than that. Maybe he was a businessman and called a group of people to bluff. For a while, he regained his previous air. "My brother Hao is not easy to provoke. It is naturally the best that our two wells do not cause river water," Brother Hao said solemnly. Seeing that Brother Hao was still not bowing his head under such a scene, everyone around them cast a terrific look, and even the younger brothers looked at him with admiration. Sure enough, on this street, no one can come. He began to swell a little, and felt that he would be beaten at most, but being beaten by so many bosses is not something ordinary people are entitled to enjoy. Lu Feng knows that there are many idiots like him around the cosmetics city, and some are finishing the goods inside. If you don't sell them to them, don't even think about selling them. As long as Zhang Xiaoyan is okay, he doesn't want to worry about it so much. Just as Lu Feng was about to end the matter, he suddenly saw Lu Quan walking over from outside, and Lu Feng was also shocked. Why is he still here? A bunch of bosses also found Lu Quan, and they moved away one after another. Nodding to him, Lu Quan stood in front of the crowd, with his hands on his chest, watching. "That's fine, that's the way it is. I hope you'll keep your word," Lu Feng said to Brother Hao. When Brother Hao heard the other party speak so kindly, he suddenly felt that he was arrogant, and he could scold the other party a few more words, but these bosses were all with people. The two reprimands will definitely be beaten. He swept around and saw a man in his 40s or 50 years old standing in front of him. Brother Hao yelled at this man, "Look at Nima. What about you, just you, the one wearing a white shirt inside and a black jacket outside, where are you?" Lu Quan glanced at his clothes, his face darkened, and said solemnly, "Municipality." High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 375. Half an hour later, 3 police cars escorted everyone away. The thin pimp was right, it was impossible for Brother Hao to wash his hands in a golden basin. Lu Quan stood in the crowd and said something, saying that we will attack these people in the cosmetics city next, report it, and hold a meeting to study how to eradicate the criminals who threaten normal business activities. We must resolutely guard the hard-won business environment and escort every merchant in cosmetics. There was a burst of warm applause at the scene. Lu Quan pressed his hands down, telling everyone to continue eating and drinking. He turned his head to look at Lu Feng and said, "Mr. Lu, I'll give you face." Lu Feng was embarrassed and said, "I really made the wrong call yesterday. I don't care about you, I came today, stood here, and was scolded by that kid as a thorn." Lu Quan said with a smile, this is a big deal. Lu Feng nodded and said, you have been wronged, and I will definitely pay you back for this favor. Lu Quan stretched out his hand and patted Lu Feng on the shoulder and said, looking at your performance, I'll go back first. A group of people sent Lu Quan to the street, and Lu Feng was polite to the others for a while, inviting them to have a meal together to express their gratitude, but everyone made excuses to refuse. With such a big favor, one meal is passed away. They are not stupid, they have a long way to go in Japan, and even Mr. Hong left with a few polite words. The onlookers were completely dumbfounded. Looking at Lu Feng, they were secretly amazed. What the hell is this young man? Even the deputy mayor came here. In their perception, this is by no means the energy that ordinary businessmen can mobilize, and there must be an unknown identity behind it. The crowd had blocked the street. Lu Feng looked at Zhao Yanran. She stood there dumbfounded, as if she had lost her soul. She looked at Lu Feng, so close and yet so far away. A few months ago, she stood in front of these two couples full of arrogance. She didn't know how much she would throw them away with her ability and money. Then she set up a bureau and asked Zhang Xiaoyan to buy 2 tons of wax oil. Like playing a fool, she felt like a fool at the moment. It was like a group of people had played the game, competing for property and pots and pans. She was very popular in the game, and she bullied Lu Feng and Zhang Xiaoyan so badly that they suddenly stopped playing, and then rode away in a luxury car. Game over. It's just that she has never experienced the ending of this dimensionality reduction blow. Mr. Zhao, I still say that, doing business is risky. If you continue to entangle with my wife and play some tricks, don't blame me for being serious with you, Lu Feng said solemnly. Sister Wu had been watching, but she was thinking quietly in her heart, and said, Mr. Lu, did you meet me here again? Lu Feng glanced at Sister Wu, didn't want to pay any attention, turned around and prepared to leave. Sister Wu trotted over and said, Mr. Lu, it's me, I ate with President Su and President Hao that day, and I'll accompany them. She blocked in front of her, and Lu Feng couldn't escape, so he could only nod his head and ask, is something wrong? Mr. Lu, I recently had dinner with a few bosses, but I heard some big news, definitely big deals, hundreds of millions of dollars, Sister Wu said earnestly. People like me just hear a lot of secrets. But they don't have the money to participate, and they both know it. Yes, it's a big project, many bosses say it in private, and don't tell outsiders at all. Sister Wu, didn't you say you wouldn't tell anyone? What should President Wang do when he gets angry? Mr. Lu is not an outsider. Sister Wu's face was full of smiles, and she patted Lu Feng's back with her hand and said, let's find a place to sit for a while and talk about this. Lu Feng has seen a lot of this common way of retaining people. Besides, these 2 little girls are really bad at acting. They stammer when they tell a lie. In front of an old fox like him, ordinary lies really can't fool him. I still have something to do. Since it's a good project with steady profits and no losses, it's definitely not short of money. I'll go first, see you later. Lu Feng walked towards the parking spot. Sister Wu was very anxious. Lu Feng looked young and slick, and he hurriedly chased after him and said, Mr. Lu, please leave your contact information, give me a business card. Business, you are looking for me, I am looking for you. Yes, I also know a lot of bosses. You know the boss, what are you doing with the 2 little girls? Lu Feng stopped and asked. It's a dinner party, you have to be accompanied by beautiful women. I'm just a person who walks the rivers and lakes. Maybe you can use me anytime. You are my resource and I'm your informant. If you have any news, feel free to ask me, Wu's sister said frankly. That's a human word. Lu Feng took out a business card from his pocket and handed it over. Sister Wu hurriedly took out a business card of hers and handed it over. Boss, this is my phone, the little girl next to her said in a whimper, her big eyes blinking and discharging. Lu Feng glanced at her coldly, turned his head and got into the car and drove away. "What are you babbling about?" Sister Wu scolded the little girl. "I didn't teach you, it's too good to look at people, people are young and handsome, and tonight is for the wife, you are really a little bit. I have no eyesight." The little girl was very aggrieved and said in a low voice, "I will, this boss Lu is much stronger than the old man." "Bah, you're a cook, do you understand when you're on the scene, you're greedy for him, I'm still greedy, are they looking at you?" Sister Wu scolded and walked towards the car, said solemnly, "These 2 days cosmetics are almost done, I will learn makeup and etiquette tomorrow." When Lu Feng returned home, Zhang Xiaoyan had already coaxed Duo to fall asleep. In the evening, the school called and said that there would be a school opening ceremony tomorrow, and both of them would be invited to attend. He hoped that Lu Feng would come to the stage to speak on behalf of the big class parents. Lu Feng nodded, asking her to rest early, and instructed the factory by the way. In the dimly lit room, Zhang Xiaoyan leaned on her side, her dark eyes looked at Lu Feng who was sleeping beside her, and she was moved indescribably. This time she went back and told her family about her own factory. The whole family was very happy, and Zhang Xiaohong encouraged her to become bigger and stronger, to be the boss herself. Now Zhang Xiaohong has taken charge of some things on the battlefield. When she returned to the village, the old Zhang family did not know how beautiful it was. The whole village knew that the Zhang family had 2 female bosses. Zhang Xiaoyan understands that she is not the material to start a factory, but she wants to continue the factory, no matter whether it is good or bad, it is a learning, she will not make herself look short in front of him, and she will not completely lose her own life, besides worrying about him every day, just worry about him. The next day, the grand opening ceremony of the kindergarten was grandly held. Not only the red carpet, champagne, but even a band was invited. The parents who came were all dressed up very delicately, the children wore small dresses, and the mothers wore off-the-shoulder dresses. The scene was like a star walking the red carpet. In the morning, Lu Feng also said that Zhang Xiaoyan was making a big fuss, and the kindergarten was only open. As for getting up early in the morning, changing clothes and putting on makeup, he has experienced a lot, and he has never seen this scene. Several second-tier singers from Xiangjiang were invited to the scene. Lu Feng looked a little familiar, but he really couldn't name them. The scene was a concert and a ballroom dance. According to Lu Feng's words, this scene is fake. After finally waiting for the parent representatives to speak, Lu Feng simply said a few words, wishing the children to be successful in their studies and grow up happily. Mr. Feng's speech. The sparse applause instantly warmed up. If you have to say snobby, this kindergarten is the most snobby place Lu Feng has ever seen. After tossing until lunch, everyone took a picture together, and finally sent Duo to school, and Lu Feng's suitcase was placed in the trunk of the car. When you're done, drive straight to the airport. Go back, you can go to the factory this afternoon, I haven't been there for a few days, Lu Feng ordered casually, raised his head and glanced at Zhang Xiaoyan, saw that her eyes were red, and hurriedly said, "Hold back, why are you crying again?" "Miss you. I'm going to Jiangsu, not Africa, it's just 2 steps." Lu Feng stepped forward and wiped her tears, and said, "Don't cry, okay? You're annoying, aren't you? Do you think I'm particularly useless? Mr. Zhang, you should be busy with the company." Lu Feng opened his arms and hugged, "You are also the boss." "Yeah," Zhang Xiaoyan nodded heavily, turned her head and walked out. After 3 steps and 2 turns, Lu Feng walked out of the airport before carrying his suitcase through security. At 4:30 in the afternoon, the plane landed at the airport, and Lu Feng arrived at the factory. It was already evening, and he was exhausted by the journey. He was a little hungry and went straight to the cafeteria. When Lu Feng was about to finish his meal, Zhang Fengxia walked in and casually instructed the waiter to order 2 dishes and 2 meat buns. Before she could sit down, She was stunned for a moment when she saw Lu Feng, then a smile appeared on her face the next, and she said in surprise, "Why are you back?" "Why can't I come back?" Lu Feng wondered. "What? You have grown up and don't need me anymore." "No, no, I heard from Wei Yandan that you came back recently and have been waiting for the past few days. I didn't expect to meet you in the cafeteria. I dreamed of you last night." What a surprise! Zhang Fengxia couldn't contain the joy on her face. She sat down. He came down and asked, "How is Sister Xiao Yan's factory?" The joy she expressed from the bottom of her heart made Lu Feng quite embarrassed. "It's stable, that is, the compensation is very stable." Zhang Fengxia was amused, smiled, and patted Lu Feng on the shoulder, "But it's okay, she has something to do, don't you know, she won't chat with me after you go back." "Isn't she chatting with you to know what I'm doing?" "Let's eat. Is Mr. Zhu here?" Lu Feng asked. "He should be here. He's been in the company for the past 2 days." Zhang Fengxia stretched out her hand to pull Lu Feng and said, "It's hard to see each other. You can sit down for a while, and you'll have another bun." Lu Feng sat down again, but only vacated a space away from her and opened up the distance. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 376. Zhang Fengxia was chattering about the recent events, most of which were her personal affairs, and any boss who went out to participate in an event would introduce someone to her. "By the way, my family called me and asked me if I was looking for someone. After this year's New Year's Eve, I'm not too young." Zhang Fengxia sighed and looked at Lu Feng. "What are you looking at me for?" Lu Feng didn't dare to look into her eyes and said, "I don't know any boys your age." Zhang Fengxia rolled her eyes and said, "I won't let you marry me." "What are you guilty of?" "I told them that you don't want to talk about it before the age of 30. Now is the rising period of your career. What to do when it opens? If you have a suitable one, you can talk about it. You can find some boss's sons. There are always excellent ones. Better than you." Lu Feng couldn't answer these words, so he could only sit there and take a sip of water. After chatting about personal matters, Lu Feng took the initiative to bring the conversation to work and asked, "Have you got the 80 million? "Yeah, I'm waiting for you to sign it, and it's sitting on your desk. There is still a surplus of more than 8 million. The daily turnover is enough. Now production is keeping up. President Zhu has also been busy with the market. Half a month ago I also asked about the financial situation and if I could allocate some money to the marketing department." Lu Feng nodded, "To get through the current debt crisis, and the rest are minor problems. According to this profit rate, all debts will be paid off within a year of next year, which can be achieved with hard work. The 50 million bonds will expire next year, and there are 200 million from the bank." Zhang Fengxia put down her chopsticks and said, "I think it's better to travel lightly. Too much debt will affect the development of the company." Lu Feng shook his head, disagreeing, and said, "I'm not afraid of debt. Long-term debt management is fine, as long as the market keeps growing. The market competition is fast and unpredictable. This is a difficulty faced by many companies. The market competition is very fierce and requires a lot of money to burn. Bank loans and mortgages in exchange for cash are not enough to burn. They can only frantically dilute their equity in exchange for a moment of respite. Or die. This is true, but a certain Ma can interpret it as, I didn't want to be the richest man from day one, or I wouldn't dilute my shares to that. It can be seen from this sentence, what is the art of speaking, turning a compelled thing into a self-active dilution, high-spirited. No boss wants to dilute equity. Once a company goes public, it's all wasted money, but if you want to get a lot of money in a short period of time and sweep the market, you have to do this. Have you finished eating? Let's have a meeting." Lu Feng stood up and glanced at the time. It was already 7:30 in the evening, and he said, "At 8:30, The small conference room, by the way, call that, Wei Yandan here. It is good. Vice presidents like Wei Yandan are not qualified to attend meetings of this level. She is the vice president of the second level department, and Lu Feng is in charge of the first level department. Zhu Lidong is in charge of the marketing department, and Zhang Fengxia is in charge of the overall internal management, as well as the personnel department, finance department, production department, etc. And now there is a subordinate sales department, which has been split from the marketing department. Although Wei Yandan knew that she might go up, she didn't expect to be able to participate in a meeting of this level. She was a little nervous for a while, and ran back to the office to find a washed white shirt to put on. I wanted to change all my clothes, but I didn't bring it. Half an hour later, everyone knew that President Lu was back, and they didn't care about eating. They first asked the vice president and the person in charge to ask for data, so as not to be asked about something, and they didn't know. At the executive meeting, Mr. Lu stopped him, but if there is a big problem, if the follow-up performance is not good, he may have to leave. At 8:20, the small conference room was brightly lit, and everyone had already arrived. They were murmuring to each other about what to talk about at this meeting. Everyone present found Wei Yandan. "Which department are you from?" someone became alert. "If there are more people, it is possible to have an additional department. Internal news about the reorganization has not spread for a day or two." "Mr. Tan, I'm the Vice President of Administration." Wei Yandan sat in the last seat and answered the finance chief nervously. "Why did Mr. Zhang run here?" "Mr. Lu asked me to come here to gain insight. I'm a little nervous now." As soon as these words came out, the expressions of everyone present were not quite right. "President Lu has just returned a few hours ago. How do you feel that the major departments are about to be moved?" After a while, Zhu Lidong stepped in, nodded to everyone, put the folder on the table, and unbuttoned his suit. Lu Feng looked at the recent reports in the office for a while. Everything was stable and rising. The subsidy battle at the market terminal was not so fierce, and people's purchasing enthusiasm was almost exhausted. After all, whoever sees the price cut every day will not take it seriously for 3 months. Putting several documents in a folder, he walked towards the conference room with the things, met Zhang Xiaoyan halfway, chatted a few words, and walked into the conference room. As Lu Feng walked in, everyone stood up and saluted Lu Feng. "Let's all sit down." Lu Feng waved his hands, motioning them to sit down. Lu Feng sat on the main seat, put the folder on the table and said, "I only came back in the afternoon. It's been 3 months since I left. Are you still not used to me coming back? We are all looking forward to Mr. Lu's return." "Yes, as soon as you come back, we will have the backbone. To be honest, you are not here for a while. I don't want to eat or drink." Okay. Lu Feng saw a few old guys in their 60s say such nasty words, and he couldn't listen anymore, so he asked, "Let's talk about the marketing department first. What have you been busy with for 3 months?" Zhu Lidong cleared his throat and said, "The marketing department and the personnel department have jointly carried out some internal restructuring and optimization, reducing a lot of unnecessary positions. Drop a group of employees and management who are not up to the mark. In terms of advertising, the market has been differentiated. The latest recruits have no lower than high school education. 70% of them have graduated from technical secondary schools or even undergraduates. Talent optimization has been carried out, the team is young, and users who purchase do market research. In 3 provinces, our city share has increased significantly, especially in Hebei, where the city share officially exceeded 25% 3 days ago, and this province is as high as 43%. Absolute control of the local market. A month ago, we finally reached a settlement in our dispute lawsuit in Sichuan, and contacted some dealers who had previously laid the groundwork. The prototype of the sales network has been paved." Lu Feng nodded, Zhu Lidong took the initiative to relieve himself, which was a wise move. How about other manufacturers? Lu Feng asked, products, market positioning, etc. There is not much movement in the market, but I heard privately that they are stepping up the research and development of other products, some of which are air conditioners, washing machines, electric fans, refrigerators, radios, power amplifiers, stereos, all kinds, and many. The company heard that it is developing a combination machine, and it is also aimed at the marriage market. Lu Feng knows that this combination machine is a product of the times. It has 2 loudspeakers, can play tapes, can be used as a radio, and has a microphone, which can sing karaoke, and is promoted as a family karaoke all-in-one machine. There are Western-style families, but they are lonely after a few years without the scenery. They're all holding back their big moves. I'm in a hurry for this one. I feel that there is no way out for the single market. If we follow this progress, it will be another fierce battle at the end of this year or next year. Lu Feng glanced at the crowd and said. When the people present heard Lu Feng talking about the fierce battle, their hearts jumped. That's how the market is. Your opponent won't give you too much time and opportunity. Lu Feng said to Zhang Fengxia, tell me. Business is business as usual inside the company. The daily consumables have dropped a lot, and the waste is relatively serious. Recently, several middle-level management have been opened, involving personnel issues, and a few false invoices have been transferred to the public security. Internal management is becoming more and more strict. Fire drills have been carried out in the production workshop and warehouse, and several companies have recently caught fire and suffered serious losses. The Panda factory's OEM production is on the right track, and the production capacity is now fully satisfied. However, if the market is to be expanded, another plan needs to be made. Some adjustments have been made between the enterprise departments, but I think the cooperation between the various departments is still not enough. It can't serve the company well, and the problems of the lower-level supervisors are more prominent, and they are being caught recently. It's still the same sentence, production safety is more important than Mount Tai. Lu Feng said to Zhang Fengxia, don't make a big accident, check it out for me regularly, and don't let the people below do anything wrong. After a long time, it will go out of shape. I might go down for a walk one day, and I discovered the safety problem. The person in charge of the production department let me go. The person in charge of the production department was so frightened that he didn't talk to President Zhang. How could he fire himself? Every time there is a meeting, Lu Feng has to remind him about production safety. Once there is a major accident, Lu Feng can't run away at all, let alone him. Not one of the leaders of the company's production safety can run away. Everyone present asked again. In the end, there was only finance left. Lu Feng sighed, took out a cigarette from his pocket, lit one, and said, tell me about finance. Then I'll talk about debt first. The current total debt is 259 million. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 377. At present, Jiafeng Electronics is in good condition, with a monthly profit of around 15 million, and an estimated annual profit of around 200 million. According to the original valuation of the company, Jiafeng Electronics has a very high debt, but according to the future prospects, the debt of more than 200 million is not a problem at all. At present, the biggest monthly expense of the company is the salary of employees, which has reached more than 7 million, and the number of employees is less than 20,000. This kind of high salary is only available from Jiafeng Electronics. The person in charge of finance said that the salary can be appropriately reduced. Compared with other companies with more than 10,000 people, Jiafeng Electronics staff cost is too high. If the salary cost can be reduced by 2 million, then our monthly profit can be as high as 17 million. If it is compressed in other areas, 20 million is not a problem. Lu Feng shook his head and said, this aspect cannot be reduced. 3 or 5 million a month is meaningless and can't be of much help. What is the situation when some financial companies at home and abroad have given us valuations? Some time ago, some financial institutions in Hong Kong suddenly evaluated us and issued a valuation report, including Dafa Financial Group, Yongfeng Financial, Bailihao Investment, Chase Investment, Goldman Sachs Capital. This Goldman Sachs Capital is below the Asian head office. These companies are surprisingly consistent, and they are all valued at 1 billion. 1 billion? Lu Feng raised his brows, sat there for a while, and asked, what do you think? I think this may be something that some competitors spend money on. First set a price for us. If we want to raise funds later, the investor can take this report to make a stumbling block and lower the price, Zhu Lidong said. I have the same opinion, but if we are valued at 1 billion yuan, is it too much to look down on us? This factory alone is worth 300 million yuan. Now that the market is so good, the value of 1 billion yuan is really too underestimated. People, Zhang Fengxia continued. Everyone was chatting, and the scene was a little chaotic for a while. The person in charge of finance pondered for a while and said, could it be that these financial institutions want to enter? Lu Feng's heart jumped when he heard this. He suddenly realized something, and asked, is there any sales data for foreign brands in the last year? Yes, but it's not very detailed, Zhu Lidong said. Bring it here, I'll take a look. Zhu Lidong turned his head and said to a man sitting behind him, Xiao Zhao. Go to the data cabinet in my office and bring the sales data sheet of foreign brands. A few minutes later, a data sheet was placed in front of Lu Feng. The data showed that the data of 16 foreign brands sold in China had increased. Their market has been growing all the time. After all, they all want to buy foreign brands. They are technologically advanced and have face, Zhu Lidong said, we didn't affect them too much. In the future, you can't do this with data. Put a bunch of data on it for comparison, and make a visualization to know. Lu Feng put several folders together, took out a piece of white paper and drew a simple graph of data changes. Not only the monthly sales volume comparison, but also the annual data comparison, the comparison of market and brand growth, the comparison of foreign and foreign-owned data growth, the comparison of domestic and foreign brand data growth. It must be comprehensive. The faces of the heads of the various departments present were a little unnatural. With so much data, a professional department was required to make the tables, and now the company does not do this. Domestic data is really rough, but foreign business data is not rough. Zhang Fengxia looked at Lu Feng and revealed a touch of experience. This kind of comparison of various data can show real growth. Only some big financial companies on Wall Street can do this kind of data. 10 minutes later, Lu Feng drew 7 or 8 pictures, put down his pen and sighed, we are being targeted by foreign capital. What? Last year, the growth rate of the domestic TV market was 43%, and the year-on-year growth rate of foreign brand sales was 39%. It basically kept pace with the market, but it was obvious that it was lagging behind. Lu Feng stood up the graph in his hand and said, the data may not be accurate, but it definitely reflects some facts. For more than 9 months this year, the month-on-month growth of the market in recent months has reached as high as 13%, an absolute explosion. Period, but the growth of foreign brands in the past few months is less than 27%. Looking at their own data comparison, they are indeed growing, but compared with the general environment, they are in negative growth. In this case, action must be taken. This data is very inaccurate, and my calculations are relatively rough. There must be more accurate data in hand. The valuation of these financial institutions is done by these foreign brands. They set the price first, and then start to buy shares or acquire them, Lu Feng said solemnly. It's acceptable to buy shares, Zhu Lidong thought for a while and said, we can quickly improve our technology. Lu Feng knows too much about the hegemony of foreign capital. Let alone now, it is foreign-owned holdings that will take over 10 years later. Once they have the technological advantage, they will have the absolute initiative. You spy on other people's technology, and they still want you to be a contemporary factory. No one is a fool. Lu Feng never thought of turning GFN Electronics into a foundry, and he didn't want to use GFN Electronics just to make money. Let's do this first. The data of each department will be better in the future. Another thing is to announce one thing. Before the end of the year, the internal reorganization will be carried out, and many new departments will be expanded. This is to adapt to the company. New strategic goals. What we need to do is not only TV sets, our goal is the electronics group. Diversification is always our pursuit. We must have a big plan and a big strategy to form an industrial platform and industrial chain, and finally achieve industrial complementarity. Let me reveal in advance that a comprehensive business department will be established to cooperate with the research and development company, carry out product incubation, and seize market segments. Before the end of the year, the reorganization should be completed. I will promote some people without hesitation. Lu Feng looked at Wei Yandan and asked, Vice President Wei, do you have any thoughts after listening to this meeting? You can talk about it. Everyone at the scene looked at Wei Yandan, and they had already noticed that this woman would be the head of the new department. Wei Yandan used to think that she was a high-level manager, and her perspective on some issues was different from that of the management below, and she was not too different from Mr. Zhang and Mr. Zhu. But after a meeting, she was completely confused and found that she couldn't understand what Lu Feng was talking about. Except for the department work report, it was all a description of some macro strategies. She looked at some of the work in this department, while Lu Feng looked at the entire electronic market, banking, product development, and even the grand strategic framework at home and abroad. In fact, she doesn't need to be nervous, because not only she doesn't understand, but everyone present is only half understood, only knowing that the department is going to be reorganized. I feel that I have a lot of shortcomings. When I first came into contact with the company's planning, I was still a lot of shock, especially the ability to control the overall situation of President Liu. I really admire it. I will definitely step up my studies and not lose the team, Wei Yandan stammered. Stunned for a moment and hurriedly said, I'm going to learn data visualization tonight. Lu Feng raised his head and glanced at the clock on the wall. It was past 10 o'clock. After sorting out the folders, he said, let's end the meeting. By the way, the bank will take a loan of 9 million to say hello, and I owe both 200 million. Not less than a few million. Let them push it until the end of the year. If they don't agree, let their president call me and let the meeting go. After Lu Feng walked out, everyone stood up and stretched, and a few people whispered, I thought I could relax for a few days. I've never been so tired in my life. Who made you tired? I didn't listen to Mr. Liu. Where are you going? I don't want to go. Fart, let's go, I have to go back to study. Wei Yandan stood up to be polite to the bosses, stood there and took a deep breath. She had always felt that these bosses lived a comfortable life every day, as if they were just walking around and scolding people and earning money. It is difficult not to be in its place. Zhang Fengxia walked out of the conference room. Wei Yandan hurriedly chased after him, and said, President Zhang. Huh, Zhang Fengxia saw that it was her, and said, your chance has come, work hard. Mr. Zhang, I was very confident a few days ago, but at the meeting tonight, I found that I couldn't understand a word. What big plan, what industry platform, and the domestic and foreign markets were strangled by President Liu. Wei Yandan was anxious. His big face was all wrinkled together. It's okay, few people can understand, Do you really think everyone has the head of Mr. Liu? There is no second person in the whole country like him. You study more, they are just talking, let's just running errands. Zhang Fengxia patted her on the shoulder and said, don't be too nervous, you have gotten along with President Liu before, and he is very nice. In Wei Yandan's eyes, the current Lu Feng and the previous Lu Feng are completely two people. Well, Mr. Zhang, you should rest early too. Which book is that data map in? You can read any statistics books. Zhang Fengxia returned to the office and sat there to rest for a while. She could feel Lu Feng's ambition. He was not just a business. It is not difficult to see from his words that he is heading towards building a business empire. After taking a shower, Lu Feng called Zhang Xiaoyan at home and chatted about the lipstick factory. It was already 11:30 in the evening. He couldn't sleep. He was half lying on the sofa, but he was thinking about how to break through the situation in front of him. In front of GFN Electronics, there are two ways. Either reject foreign brands, raise some money, and develop slowly. It is estimated that it will grow into an electronic group with assets of tens of billions in 10 years. But it is a bit difficult to go global, and it is impossible to break through in terms of technology. Another way is to accept foreign holdings, then all the days that follow will be a game with foreign capital, and the chance of becoming a foundry is too great. In the last life, Lu Feng often complained that the domestic electronics industry was a soft egg. After decades of development, he relied on low prices to do things with simple technologies such as computers, mobile phones, air conditioners, and washing machines. Of death. He came to know the difficulties here. Money. Money. Lu Feng called while rubbing his face with his hands. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 378. The problem that Lu Feng is facing is faced by almost all companies. This is an unsolvable problem. The domestic economy is growing rapidly, but technology cannot keep up. It has a market that is large enough and has enough potential, but the technology field is seriously lagging behind. When the technology of local enterprises reaches the ceiling, they cannot go further, and there are better choices for people who get rich first. Then these rich people will choose foreign products. The result of this is that ordinary people at the bottom will see what the rich use as a standard. Over time, a memory will form. Using foreign brands is equal to the rich. Foreign brands are unconditionally good and have no brains. Faith. This is the root of worshipping foreign brands and superstitious foreign brands in the following decades. Even if it is Viputa, the market it is targeting is still the low-end market. It is not difficult to be a profitable enterprise, but it is even more difficult to be a great enterprise. In the final analysis, it is still a matter of technology, industry, and trade, industry and technology. If you want technology, you must accept the holding or even acquisition of foreign brands. This does not mean that you can get the technology of the other party. However, doing so can make money quickly, and the brand image will be greatly improved in the short term, and it will even become the light of the nation. Reliance will form inertia, and after many years, I will be afraid of leaving behind a foreign lackey and comprador. Lu Feng was a little confused. He picked up the lighter on the coffee table and lit a cigarette. If he wanted to go against the current, he had to go against the times. The difficulties he faced would be unimaginable. Lu Feng suddenly remembered that he participated in a senior seminar and study meeting for young entrepreneurs in his last life, and the unit of that study was Huai. Among them, the words of two senior executives made Lu Feng particularly fond of remembering that Huai has not been able to get to this day because of a simple management model, nor a cruel entropy reduction and elimination system, but learning. When there is no technical advantage or market advantage, you should accumulate a lot of talents, attract talents from all over the world, and foreign technology is good, then go abroad to recruit talents, Set up R/U0026D companies abroad, and learn from others seriously. Only by admitting that you can't do it can you move forward with certainty. If you can't do it now, it doesn't mean you can't do it in the future. The senior executive also listed the development history of developed countries around the world. How many countries have become the world's hegemonic countries by studying industrial modernization? Above the tide. Lu Feng still remembered that those words made many people laugh, and then the audience applauded. It was already 1 o'clock in the second half of the night. Lu Feng reached out to touch the cigarette, and he finished smoking a pack of cigarettes. He sighed and took the water glass in front of him and drank it. Since you have to choose a path, choose the hardest one. Lu Feng looked at the starry sky outside the window, as if talking to himself or talking to himself in the previous life. Not everyone has the opportunity to make a choice. The major companies have done a lot of data collection about GFN Electronics, forming a complete data chain. The major company's evaluation of GFN Electronics is that this is a company with a strong market and great potential. It is only a matter of time before you become one of the first-class enterprises in China, and it is only a matter of time before you rely on your strength to confront those first-class state-owned enterprises. Spending some money on such a company is worth it. The next day, in Xiangjiang, the conference room in a high-end office building was already full of people. Everyone was in suits and leather shoes, and the word elite was written all over their faces. A few minutes later, a man in his 40s walked in, sat down and said, "Today, the GFN Electronics Acquisition Organizing Committee is officially established and has a meeting." The same situation is playing out in foreign brands such as Sony branch, Sharp branch, Panasonic branch, and Philips. This kind of cross-border acquisition is very troublesome. It is not a direct negotiation between companies. It requires a professional consulting company to deal with it, and even a professional legal consulting company and a financial company to provide financial guarantee. It was after 9 o'clock in the morning that Lu Feng woke up, washed briefly, and started to deal with the backlog of affairs. Apart from the mobilization of some personnel, it was more about the mobilization of funds. Sign the 80 million fund transfer document, and today the money can be returned to Chang Hong's account. At present, GFN Electronics has 27 large and small departments and 16 subordinate companies. It is already very large. If you want to make such a large company smart again, you can flexibly turn the front of the car and move forward rapidly. There are areas that need to be changed. Much. After lunch in the afternoon, Lu Feng called Zhang Fengxia and Zhu Lidong to the office. The two of them sat at their desks and looked a little uneasy. Now the whole company is rumored to replace a group of people and recruit younger ones. Are you already panicking? Lu Feng looked at the two and asked. Fortunately, after all, the management of the company has experienced great winds and waves, Zhang Fengxia replied. I just want to talk to you too. Regarding the change of the company model, my idea is to continue to delegate power to the branch companies, especially the sales company, Lu Feng said solemnly. Zhu Lidong's face sank, his mouth pursed together and nodded. It is mainly in line with the company's development, and everything is not a problem. Marketing, publicity, and planning are decentralized, and regional branches are given greater power. One place has its particularity. In the future, the marketing department will be mainly responsible for brand marketing, market guidance, data collection, and evaluation. Do market guidance. Zhu Lidong nodded and said, no more substantive advertising participation. No, it's the decentralization of grassroots advertising and publicity, and the TV and offline media will continue. You can start with the title of entertainment programs, or by investing in the content of variety shows. In short, it is for the market segment. You are responsible for the top. That part of planning, marketing, and publicity puts more of the burden on the branch. Zhu Lidong knew that Lu Feng was decompressing himself, and he felt it. This was a precursor to group formation. In terms of the company's internal management, Mr. Zhang can train several suitable candidates and share some of the burden for himself. Now our office building is full, and we may go to the office building next year to work. In addition to learning to be cutting edge, the current department also needs to learn to decentralize things. I decided to add several departments, business departments, mainly to explore new product markets keenly, to intervene in a timely manner, and to deploy the resources of subordinate companies. This department is very important. In the future, the resource allocation of all companies will be decentralized by this department after accounting. Lu Feng looked at Zhang Fengxia and said, I hope you can free up your hands and take over this department. There is also the establishment of an investment and acquisition department, a debt accounting department, and an overseas investment department. The last one is nothing, the Talent Reserve Center. Zhang Fengxia and Zhu Lidong looked at each other, and they both saw shock in each other's eyes. If it is said that the establishment of a business department, Lu Feng intends to conglomerate, so as to facilitate the comprehensive management of the enterprise, how do the latter departments feel like want to borrow money like crazy? Lu, President Lu, what does the investment and acquisition department do? Zhu Lidong whispered. Of course it's investment. Our industrial chain is still incomplete. Now there is only one Tianying copper industry. We need more core supporting products in our own hands. What about the debt accounting department? The debts are stripped from the finance department, and separate accounting is carried out to facilitate the public announcement. As for the Talent Reserve Center, it is used to make plans to open up colleges and universities. There are too few talents. Now the iron rice bowl is not the only choice. Universities establish direct channels and use high wages to introduce outstanding talents from colleges and universities, not only to attract talents from colleges and universities, but also to attract overseas talents. Zhang Fengxia sat there without speaking, and after a while, she said, Do you want to call Mr. Tan from the finance department? Don't. Zhu Lidong waved his hand hurriedly, the old man's blood pressure is very high, and today he paid the bill with the 80 million yuan you signed. He is as happy as a child. When you say this, Mr. Lu, I'm afraid he will smoke. Past. 50 million will expire at the beginning of next year, and at the end of the year, the bank's 200 million will also expire, Zhang Fengxia reminded in a low voice. Don't be afraid. If you want to develop, don't be afraid to borrow money. It's just over 200 million in debt. It's easy to repay. As long as you borrow another 10 or 800 million, it will be repaid, Lu Feng said indifferently. The two of them had nothing to say, they scratched their heads. This is really the boldness of the art masters, borrowing 1,800 million? They don't think that Lu Feng is joking. Judging from the direction of corporate restructuring, Lu Feng is planning to enter the overseas market. The problem is that the domestic market has just stabilized. Zhu Lidong stood up, poured 3 glasses of water, sat down and took a sip, and said, Mr. Lu, are we taking too big steps and developing too fast? Zhang Fengxia suddenly remembered Lu Feng's journey in the short 2 years, she burst out laughing, and said, Zhu always said, can't you stop? No, Zhu Lidong waved his hand hastily. I also want to be quiet. Who wants to be so tired, but the general environment does not allow it? I can tell you this, once the reorganization is slowed down, we will miss the best window. There are 2 paths, or die slowly, the death process may last for 10 years, or it will develop rapidly, Lu Feng said solemnly to the two of them, this is our only chance to soar into the sky. The two were stunned for a moment. They had just won in the terminal market, why are they dying again? There was a knock on the office door. Lu Feng said that he came in. A young clerk walked in and said nervously, Mr. Lu, I am from the commercial department. There were 3 faxes just now from Shenzhen R/U0026D company. Put it on the table. Lu Feng picked it up and flipped through it. What Liu Can passed down was actually 3 newspapers from Hong Kong today. The content was impressive. GFN Electronics announced that it was seeking partners. The 3 newspapers wrote that Samsung, Sony, and Philips were the 3 companies contacted by GFN Electronics. Look at it. Zhu Lidong and Zhang Fengxia were a little surprised after reading it. What does this mean? False information from small newspapers? We are so popular in Xiangjiang. It's just to release some signals. Lu Feng leaned back on his chair and said, "Come on, it's time to call in 3 to 5 days at most." High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 379. Zhang Fengxia and Zhu Lidong's control of the overall situation is obviously not a bit worse than that of Lu Feng, and they are still a little confused by these reports. Zhang Fengxia was stunned for a moment and said, "You mean that 3 companies, Samsung, Sony, and Philips, want to buy us?" Lu Feng nodded and said, "Not only these 3, but all foreign brands. Now we have become a sweet and delicious food." Zhang Fengxia's face became excited, and she said, "This is a good thing. As long as we catch up with foreign capital, we will immediately have the technology authorization. In the domestic market, we will definitely go sideways, not only with technology, but also with money, valuation. It's also swooshing upwards." "Then what? Who has the final say in the company?" Lu Feng asked. "I don't know this. I haven't learned it. I just heard from the teacher that as long as it attracts large capital investment, it means that it is already a very potential company, waiting to make a fortune," Zhang Fengxia assuredly assured. "Forget it, this matter has nothing to do with the 2 of you. In the past 2 days, I will sort out the reorganization plan and implement it before the end of this year. At the same time, before the end of the year, we will expand a factory and build a branch factory. The capacity should be strong, and the annual output should not be less than 5 million units, or even more." Annual output of 5 million units? The output of this scale should be regarded as the largest TV manufacturer. Zhu Lidong asked, "Where is it?" "Maybe it's Shantou, which is a country that attaches great importance to it." Lu Feng shook his head again and again. If it was settled in Shantou, it would really be useless. "Send a few teams to discuss. First decide on the 4 cities of Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Chongqing, and Wuhan, which city will give you more land, big discounts, and broad policies, and you can go there, and it will be done before the end of the year. When the time comes, mortgage the land to the bank, exchange it for cash, and remember one thing, which city will use the index to buy imported machines. This is very important." "I understand," Zhu Lidong nodded. "The reorganization, don't announce it to the public yet, let the management pass it on." Lu Feng took the folder next to him and opened it, and said, "There's nothing else to do, just go and get busy." Zhang Fengxia and Zhu Lidong left the office. They were walking in the corridor. Zhu Lidong asked, "What does President Lu want to do?" "I do not know either." "Aren't you very close to him?" "Did I sleep with him under the covers?" Zhang Fengxia said angrily. "You ask me. I ask who is going?" Zhu Lidong originally thought that the next step was to build a branch factory to increase sales, and the company would operate with him as the axis, but the development of things was somewhat unexpected. Lu Feng's heart is much bigger than the average person. In the past 2 or 3 days, the internal reorganization of the company has been rumored, and the news from Xiangjiang has finally reached the mainland. After reprinting, it quickly spread in the industry, forming a shock. This is equivalent to an invitation letter from a foreign brand, telling GFN Electronics, "I think you are good, you should feel honored." Now foreign brands are like the rich and powerful sons, while the domestic brands are lowly maids, and many maids dream of being in the arms of Master Deo. And GFN Electronics, a company founded at the end of last year, was actually taken a fancy to. How can people not envy and hate? The reason why those companies are preparing with great fanfare is not because they are afraid that GFN Electronics will not agree, but mainly because there are other foreign brands vying for it. Some important media in the Suzhou area saw that GFN Electronics had this opportunity, and quickly arranged a wave of interviews. The headlines of the media were all about the rapid development of GFN Electronics, which caused shocks abroad. Why did the United States panic? South Korea knelt, devils I cried. On the contrary, GFN Electronics has always been quiet. The first person to call was Samsung's headquarters in Xiangyang. The other party also expressed his interest very simply and directly. He was very interested in GFN Electronics and was willing to contact us to discuss the acquisition. When the person in charge of the business department heard about this, he was blinded on the spot, and he could not control this matter. I can help you report it, I can't control this matter. We have already mailed a business document, and it should arrive today. Let your boss take a look. We have sincerity to acquire it, and we also think it is a development opportunity for GFN Electronics. After all, we are Samsung, and a company that can be seen by us is not an option. Many. The other party's tone is full of arrogance, and it seems that they are attracted by them, which is the pride of GFN Electronics. The person in charge of the commercial department could only be polite. The other party was a big company and was foreign-owned, so he didn't dare to offend him. He wrote down all the phone calls and walked to Lu Feng's office non-stop. Come in, Lu Feng's voice came from the room. The person in charge of the business department opened the door and walked in. He hurriedly stepped forward and put the phone record on the table and said, Mr. Lu, an executive from Samsung Xiangyang headquarters called and said that he wanted to buy us. This is the phone record. They also said they mailed us a business paper. Lu Feng just gave a flat O, took a look at the phone record book and said, Is there anything else? How do we reply? Don't bother. Lu Feng stopped writing, looked at him and said, Is there anything else? Mr. Lu, this is Samsung. I'm not deaf. Then I'll go to work first. He left the office, and before he could return to the department office, a young man rushed over and shouted, There's another phone, Sony's. Sony's. The person in charge of the business department ran back and forth 4 or 5 times in a row, and Lu Feng was a little tired of hearing it. He closed the reorganization opinion form in his hand, and said, If you feel that just hanging up the phone, it will make them think that we are rude, you just pick it up and put it next to you, doing what you should be busy with. Okay, but with so many companies calling, do we really not sell? Is this something you should consider? Lu Feng frowned. No, no, the person in charge of the business department hurriedly squeezed out a smile and exited the office. In the afternoon, all the commercial documents of the major companies arrived, and they were piled up in the trash can of Lu Feng's office. The next day, these companies released news invariably that they had reached a preliminary acquisition intention with GFN Electronics. The acquisition negotiating team of both parties will meet next. Everyone thinks about the same, first occupy the position and let other competitors give up. The embarrassing thing is that the news of these companies was released on the same day, which instantly detonated the electronics industry. No one knows what GFN Electronics is in a place where every inch of land is so precious in Xiangyang, but now everyone knows that international electronics companies are robbing this company. A newspaper commented that when a woman married 5 husbands, who would be GFN Electronics family? Such an explosive news spread to Shenzhen on the other side for the first time, and then the mainland electronics industry boiled again, and many people in the industry smashed the table. The luck of this person is too bad, right? GFN Electronics was founded last year, and it was also founded last year. It has attracted the attention of international capital, and it has successfully lost everything. Sun Yuanqing was sitting in front of the old desk. When he heard the news, he raised his eyelids and his cloudy eyes radiated a ray of light. It's a good choice to take money and leave. After entering the electronics industry for less than a year, he can exit with several hundred million yuan. He is a powerful person. He muttered, picked up the enamel cup in front of him and took a sip of strong tea. The whole person returned to the state of drowsiness. The outside world is also envious of Lu Feng. Being targeted by foreign capital means that he has earned it and can leave the game with money, not to mention how long he has been working. This matter is quite noisy, some TV stations have reported it, and even Gao Jiwei is imagining that Lu Feng will return to GMA Food with hundreds of millions of funds. The whole world is jealous of Lu Feng, thinking that he can sit on the ground and raise the price. Some people are cheering for him, some people are cursing, only Lu Feng is calm here. Even Huang Yowei thinks that Lu Feng can sell GFN Electronics, which is the way of doing business now, making money first, not to mention catching up with foreign capital. Originally there were 5 companies, but seeing companies like Samsung, Sony, and Philips all get involved, the remaining 2, Sharp and Panasonic, gave up directly. After many days, the acquisition negotiation delegation of the 3 companies has arrived in Suzhou, and immediately contacted local reporters and met Huang Yowei. The 3 delegations are very hostile to each other, and they all think that the other party is deliberately blocking them, not really wanting to acquire them, and even quarreled. In the evening, news reports from the 3 parties came out, all of which were about the contribution to the local area after the acquisition of local enterprises, and several sets of acquisition plans were prepared. The whole process was that the 3 foreign-funded enterprises fought each other, and they didn't say a word to Lu Feng, and even asked GFN Electronics if he was willing. Domineering. There is quite a kind of posture that buying you has nothing to do with you. Outside news is surging, and many colleagues have called and are very concerned, asking how much Lu Feng plans to sell, and some people even call to discuss a piece of foolish foreigners, buy their own broken factory into GFN Electronics, then increase the value of the factory worth several million to tens of millions, and then divide it into half. Lu Feng just wanted to write down the reorganization plan quietly, but now he can see that he can't write anymore. Because Huang Yowei's call came. Come to Jiangguo Hotel tonight, the 3 teams have arrived, and you will come out and make a bright appearance. It can be heard that Huang Yowei is in a good mood. After all, this important media broadcast is considered to be an important symbol of the progress of the electronics industry, and it is also a small step for the company to go global. Lu Feng sighed, put down the pen, stood up, walked to the bed and stretched. It's time for them to stop for a while. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 380. GFN Electronics is now an excellent private enterprise, and there are not many private enterprises that can be spied on by foreign capital. During this time, the entire industry was jealous of GFN Electronics, and everyone believed that Lu Feng could wake up from a dream during this time. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng parked his car in the parking lot, walked towards the hotel door, and went to the 9th floor banquet hall. Before he could go to the lounge, he met Huang Yowei around the corner. I haven't seen him for a while. Huang Yowei is wearing a blue and black suit with a smile on his face, as if he was marrying his son today. He saw Lu Feng laughed, the folds on his face were squeezed out, he stepped forward and said, Mr. Lu, congratulations. Congratulations on what? Didn't you ask for it knowingly? Let me tell you, there are a lot of companies rushing to acquire this time, and there are a few who want to invest in joint ventures. I have chatted with you for the past 2 days, and I can ask for a high price. Huang Yowei didn't give Lu Feng a chance to speak, He patted Lu Feng's shoulder with his hand and said, "They are in the office area on the 5th floor, their team is still very professional, and there is a financial companies advisory group, there are many people. Go get in touch, I have a meeting there." Lu Feng didn't want to go, but he came here today to dispel the thoughts of these people, but when he heard that there was a financial company advisory group from Xiangjiang, the whole person came to the spirit. The current financing environment in mainland China is very general. In addition to borrowing money, some companies are looking for political assistance for financing. The channels are quite simple, and the financial aspect is very irregular. Those so-called financial companies are in fact loan sharks, or even set up companies for hedging. At present, the best place for financial companies is Xiangjiang. Lu Feng needs an extremely large amount of funds behind him, and he needs this place even more, including setting up our U0026D companies overseas, and companies going overseas, they all need to set up local headquarters in Xiangjiang. On the 5th floor, the teams of the 3 companies wrapped up this floor. The 3 companies met several times, and the conversation was not very pleasant. Everyone had their own arrogance. I heard that the CEO of GFN Electronics is here today. All 3 parties think that if they can't handle these big foreign companies, they can handle a CEO of GFN Electronics. When Lu Feng arrived at the meeting room on the 5th floor, he found no one, and no one paid him any attention. He asked the 2 waiters if they didn't know much about the team here. "Sir, this floor is full of distinguished guests, and we are just serving tea and pouring water," the waiter wondered. "Okay," Lu Feng nodded. A man in his 30s walked in. At first glance, he knew that he was not a local. His face shape and dressing style had a Hong Kong style. "This gentleman, who are you looking for?" the man asked, looking at Lu Feng. "I'm looking for some people from 3 companies that live here." "Who are you?" "I'm the chairman of GFN Electronics, Lu Feng." The man glanced at Lu Feng suspiciously. If it wasn't for what Huang Youwei had said before, the boss of GFN Electronics was quite young, he would definitely have kicked Lu Feng out. "You go to the parlor and wait, I'll inform you later." The man pointed to the parlor next to him. Without waiting for Lu Feng to agree, the other party strode away, and Lu Feng was a little annoyed when he stood there. This is his own territory, as if waiting for him to be summoned. "Sir, what would you like to drink?" "Whatever, anything is fine." Lu Feng didn't go to the living room after he finished speaking, but stood at the door and smoked a cigarette. After waiting for almost half an hour, the man returned, rushed to Lu Feng and said, "Follow me." "Where to?" The other party didn't pay any attention at all, and just walked forward sullenly. Lu Feng couldn't hold back his anger. He took 2 steps forward and said solemnly, "Can't you hear me?" "Take the skin," the man scolded directly in Hong Kong language. Lu Feng can understand this sentence, it means to shut up. After turning around twice in the aisle, I arrived at the door of a conference room. The service staff pushed open the door. There were already 20 or 30 people sitting inside. The man walked in and said, "Mr. Bao, the people have arrived." After he finished speaking, he sat in the last position. Bao was always a man in his 60s, dressed like the villain in an old Hong Kong movie, with oily hair, a round face, and a pair of black-rimmed glasses. He looked at Lu Feng and took a closer look. Raised his eyebrows, pointed to the chair opposite and said, "Mr. Lu, sit down." Lu Feng pulled out his chair and sat down. He said, "I don't know which company you are. You are a guest, but now I'm making it look like I'm in Xiangjiang." Mr. Bao didn't take it seriously, and said directly, "We are a special acquisition group set up by Philips at the headquarters in Hong Kong. I believe you know better than me what Philips is in the electronics industry. We are a century-old enterprise, established in 1891. Having been involved in countless industries, you should be honored to be part of this big family. I'm honored before I speak. Go ahead. Lu Feng looked at him and said. This is our acquisition plan, take a look at it, buy all the equity, including the company's intellectual property rights, branch ownership, land, factories, and products that are being developed or are about to be developed. There are detailed legal provisions for acquisitions, no including corporate debt. According to the previous valuations given by several financial companies, we are willing to pay a price of 1 billion yuan to integrate GFN Electronics into the Philips network. This is also an honor for you, no matter where you go in the future. You can say that the company you founded has been favored by us. Lu Feng sat there without a smile on his face. He knew that foreign capital was crushing domestic companies in this era, but he still did not expect that they would show their arrogance without mercy, and even follow him in a condescending state. Speak for yourself. As if, this is a gift to him. Everyone present was very relaxed. It seemed that Lu Feng could not refuse to agree to this matter. After a lot of terms and obligations, a two-finger contract was placed in front of him. You can sign now, or you can go back and find a legal team to look at the content before signing, but I think you should sign now. We don't need to set up a contract for a small company like you. If it's not because of the need to expand the TV business and the market, you really can't get into our eyes. Without opening the contract, Lu Feng pushed it forward and said, I won't sign it. Someone gave you more money? Mr. Lu, you are a smart person. Don't believe some unnecessary promises. In business acquisition negotiations, verbal promises are as untrustworthy as oaths in love. I'm not saying that I don't sign you, but GFN Electronics doesn't plan to sell it. Lu Feng stood up and looked at the man in the middle of the conference table, and said, Are you from a financial company? Which one? The man was stunned, wondering why Lu Feng suddenly asked himself, and everyone in the audience looked at him. Not for sale? Just want a higher price. We can make an extra 200 million, but you have to sign the contract now. Your business is worth this price. I know the price of my business. Lu Feng took out a business card from his arms and handed it over, and said, It has my contact information, we can talk about it. As for selling GFN Electronics, I seem to have never. I didn't say it, I didn't respond, I don't know what you guys are doing here. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he turned his head and left. Mr. Lu, this is an opportunity for you. We have rich technical reserves, and we have a sales network in 150 countries around the world, which is enough to bring Viputa to the world. I believe that I also have this ability. GFN Electronics will one day cover 150 countries, or even more. Lu Feng stopped at the door and turned around and said, You guys are very disrespectful. People. The people present stopped talking. In their eyes, being able to send a professional acquisition team to negotiate has already paid the most attention to this matter. They originally thought that Lu Feng should receive him with sincerity, but he didn't. Respect requires strength. The man who brought Lu Feng in said abruptly. Okay, I remember what you said. Lu Feng pushed open the door and walked out. The three teams stared at each other all the time. When Lu Feng entered the conference room, someone saw him. As soon as he came out of the conference room, he was blocked by a man. Is that Mr. Lu from GFN Electronics? Yes, you are. I want to ask, have you talked to Philips yet? It's none of your business. Who are you? I am from Sony Xiangjiang headquarters. We are very interested in GFN Electronics. I believe you also know Sony's position in the electronics industry. After being acquired by us, it will definitely receive more care in the mainland market. Go to the conference room. Talk. No need. Lu Feng looked at him and said, I won't sell it. We accept the controlling stake. We only need to hold 51%. We will help you expand production in the short term. At the same time, there will definitely be support in terms of technology. The brand you created doesn't want it to collapse. You only need the head office. The resources are skewed a little. In his mouth, Sony only needs to nod, and GFN Electronics can take off immediately in the next second. He said that Lu Feng's efforts were so worthless, and he said that Sony was so powerful. I don't accept holdings, and I don't accept acquisitions, Lu Feng interrupted him with a low voice. There were 7 or 8 people walking by, Yeshui in suits and leather shoes, and hearing Lu Feng's words, these people's expressions were not right. This is also your company's. We are from Samsung's headquarters in Hong Kong. I am the vice president and my surname is Park, said a man in his 50s with a strong pickle accent. GFN Electronics Lu Feng. You said you don't want to sell? You don't want to be a shareholder, Mr. Park stared at Lu Feng, his eyes a little sharp. Do you really think that Wiputa is very important in the mainland market? Is there a lot? What do you mean? Threat me, Lu Feng frowned. I know that you want to sell more at a higher price. It's like a girl in the countryside who met a few rich people and started to raise the price. Let me tell you, we don't have much patience. Who told you that a rural girl must marry when she sees the rich second generation? Lu Feng sneered, appearing so disdainful, and said, you guys want to play with me as a rural girl, but the old lady still wants to fight and play in the city. Where's the boy? High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 381. Lu Feng stopped talking to them, turned around and left. Neither of them dreamed that it would be the first time to talk to Lu Feng to get such a result. This is far from what they expected. To be precise, with the identities they represent behind, to talk to a small company like GFN Electronics about the acquisition, I didn't take it too seriously. This is asking for a price in the sky. The others nodded, and now the 3 are vying for it. Naturally they are trying to find a way to sell it at a high price. It's almost 8 o'clock. Tonight's reception is very simple. It is to eat, drink, and arrange for Lu Feng to meet with these 3 parties. Huang Youwei still wants to attract more foreign investment. It is best to build a local factory. The preferential conditions he can give are, and the policy is unimaginable for a local company like Lu Feng. In a word, as long as you come, everything will be given to you, free. The leaders of some local units have already entered the scene, and everyone is eating and drinking, which is considered to be comfortable. Huang Youwei walked in and greeted people. Lu Feng stepped into the banquet hall, intending to take a simple bite, settle the matter and go back. What's the matter? It's not a pleasant conversation. Huang Youwei saw Lu Feng's dark face and asked in a low voice, I tell you, there are 3 now, you have to act better. I don't want you to be acquired, a joint venture it's best. It's a bit of a face to speak out, so you have to be good at acting. Lu Feng looked at Huang Youwei and said solemnly, I don't want a joint venture, let alone a sale. Pretty, it looks like the real thing, Huang Youwei said happily with a smile on his face. Just keep it in the state, leave the rest to me, and we can just take down the family. I really don't want to sell it. Very good. Just as Huang Youwei was about to say something, the 3 parties had already walked in, winked at Lu Feng, and said, I'll go to the reception. Oops, Lu Feng was speechless, covering his face with his hands. Why can't he explain it? Huang Youwei stepped forward and greeted a few people politely. The Samsung team came first, and their vice president said to Huang Youwei, didn't you say that as long as the acquisition of GFN Electronics is a green light, nothing is a problem? Why not? Is it sold? Huang Youwei thought to himself, Lu Feng is a guy who has a lot of heart. Before he could talk to him, he figured out the twists and turns. Run down first and refused a wave. When it comes to buying and selling, you want to refuse and welcome? He is a young man. He has never experienced such a thing, so he is afraid that he will suffer a loss. You should also understand. Besides, this price. The price we can give is 1.3 billion, which is a low price. The price we can give is entirely because of GFN Electronics market. No problem, I'll have a chat with him, let's eat first, everything is ready. Huang Yawei made a gesture of invitation, and the staff next to him stepped forward and walked forward. After a while, Sony's team came. Huang Yawei still used the same rhetoric, and got a reserve price of 1.25 billion. Finally, Philips, whispering for a long time, gave a reserve price of 1.2 billion. The scene was quite generous. The three groups of people were divided into three piles, whispering to each other, looking at each other and pointing at each other from time to time, not knowing what each other was talking about. A few minutes later, the main leaders of the three teams came over and sat on the round table on the left. Huang Yawei also pulled Lu Feng over. It's such a price, and everyone is very sincere. After all, we have to choose a family. Just like marrying a daughter, a company must have a home. Huang Yawei said to Lu Feng, Mr. Lu, do you understand? I didn't say it all, I don't want to sell it, Lu Feng said solemnly. Huang Yawei raised his eyebrows at him quietly, and suddenly shouted coldly, what are you doing? How can you talk to me? I know that GFN Electronics has great potential, and I also know that you are going to make hundreds of millions of profits next year. But those have only a certain chance to be realized. You say not to sell now. Do you have another way to go? I'm planning to. You want to hold a joint venture, don't you? Huang Yawei grabbed Lu Feng's words and sighed, I used to run a business, and I can understand the feeling of starting a business myself, that is my own child, who wants to? Did you sell your child? Most of the time it has nothing to do with money, it's mainly about human emotions. I believe you have the same experience. He doesn't want to sell. If it is a joint venture, who is interested? All three parties could see that Huang Yawei and Lu Feng were singing double reeds here. What I said before was that the 100 million or so wholly owned acquisition of GFN Electronics became a joint venture and holding company, which made them a little unacceptable. Philips was the first to say, no interest, it's beyond our budget and ideas. Then the people from Sony said that they could report it, and the joint venture would involve a series of issues such as holding and dispatching of senior management. Only the person in charge of Samsung said, yes, we can accept the holding, but it must be 65%. For the price, the first negotiation will be reduced by 20%. Huang Yawei was secretly happy when he heard the price, 65% of the equity, 800 million, this price is definitely much stronger than the 1 billion acquisition. How is it? I've said all the good things to you. You have to understand the good words. If you make a fool of yourself again and think you can go to 9 days to take care of the moon, don't blame me for being rude. Huang Yawei's words were just to tell Lu Feng, this price is very good. I've said it very clearly. GFN Electronics has never said about a sale or a joint venture. I hope President Huang understands me, Lu Feng said with a serious face. What's the matter with you? Huang Yawei smiled at the representative of the three parties to express his embarrassment, pulled Lu Feng aside, walked behind the pillar and said, this price is okay, 65% of the equity, 100 million, very few private enterprises in the country can buy this price, if they hadn't been in a hurry, they wouldn't have been able to make such a big blood. I don't sell it. I don't sell it, understand, Lu Feng shouted in a low voice. Are you mentally ill? Huang Yawei really couldn't think of a reason why Lu Feng didn't sell. In Huang Yawei's eyes, Lu Feng was a man who saw money, and he let go of GMA Foods before. Do you think GFN Electronics can sell more next year? Can it reach 2 billion? Stop dreaming, let me tell you, how fierce the market competition is, you know better than me, next year's competition will be more fierce, and GFN Electronics will still be burdened with a few. You are a businessman, you will have hundreds of millions of cash flow in a joint venture, and there is light on my face. It started at the end of last year, and it has been less than 11 months. You have made several hundred million, is it not enough? Huan Yuwei made the calculations for him clearly. At Lu Feng's age, he is the only one in the whole country with this kind of earning ability. I don't want to be a pure businessman, not just to make money, I want to make GFN Electronics bigger and stronger, out of Asia, and into the world. Lu Feng's voice came out from the bottom of his heart. At this moment his heart beat faster, the feeling of starting a business for the first time and having a dream jumped into my heart again. Huan Yuwei looked at him blankly, and suddenly felt that he didn't know the Lu Feng in front of him. After a pause, Huan Yuwei remembered who Lu Feng was, and said in a low voice, "Don't tell me these things at this critical time. Who are you? You're still a little kidnapped? You even rushed out of Asia and went global. You go to Sichuan, if you don't have Lao Tzu, you'll be hummed to death. You didn't help me either. Do you think I have the ability to be yours today? Which province or city do I go to? If you don't give me the support, it will only be more or less. You don't know what the mayors are to me. How nice, invite me to dinner, drink with me, you sometimes curse people," Lu Feng said angrily. Huan Yuwei was so mad at him that he took a deep breath, rolled up his shirt sleeves, and said unwillingly, "I still treat you badly? Those mayors treat you well, go find them. What are you doing in Suzhou? Damn, you've already seen it, you didn't go back to accompany your wife for the past 3 months, you just went to Shenzhen to find Lu Quan, didn't you? I'm looking for Lu Quan? What's wrong with me looking for him?" Lu Feng was also agitated and shouted, "We've had dinner and we have a good talk. Okay, it's a showdown, right? I want to keep you, but I can't. You just want to build a branch over there, and even pull the headquarters over there. There are people outside. How nice to you, you. Lu Feng, you really chill my heart," Huan Yuwei said sadly. "I don't want to sell, you force me to sell. It's not from the perspective of your own interests, you care about my feelings," Lu Feng said, and suddenly felt that the dialogue between the two was not very good. Right. A little ambiguous. The two of them thought about it, and suddenly found that half of the people in the hall were looking towards this side, all stunned. Lu Feng didn't want to say more, and if he broke up with Huan Yuwei again, it would be rumored that there was something wrong with his way of speaking. He had a very serious quarrel, and it seemed that the taste was not right in the eyes of others. He turned his head and said to the waiter, "Do you have a microphone?" "Yes, sir." "Bring it to me." The waiter took a microphone, and Lu Feng stood in the center of the scene and said, "Everyone, be quiet. I'm the chairman of GFN Electronics. Lu Feng, listen to me. Today, I am fortunate to be able to interact with major international companies such as Samsung, Sony, and Philips. During this period of time, there have been rumors that GFN Electronics is going to sell, and they are talking about nose and eyes. I didn't pay much attention to it, because I was busy. The reorganization of the company, I never expected that the 3 companies will take it seriously, so I am here." Everyone present felt that what Lu Feng said was not quite right. Why did they feel that the acquisition was going to be yellow? The 3 companies are also very sincere and offer very high prices, but I always feel that GFN Electronics has its own mission of the times. I always believe that GFN Electronics will one day leap 9 days and stand in the international business world. To be a banner, and I've been working hard for it. It's not about money, it's about goals. Many people in the industry think that GFN Electronics has reached its end when it sells at this price. In fact, we have only just started. Thank you again to the 3 companies. I'm not kidding. Say it again, no sale. No joint venture, thank you. High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list.